Rise and Grind podcast here. Danielle with my girl Alex. We're on episode 15 and we're doing a little intro with myself because I was number 15. So it just, kind of made sense. Alex.
Yeah, makes sense.
Today we're going to kind of pull up that interview from that NFCA where Alex made her way to go and talk and take the time to sit with some of the greats in the game. So she was able to pull Stacey Nuveman-Deniz, the head coach of San Diego State, and got to chit chat for about a 15-minute interview. So we are going to post that and let that go rogue, and then we'll chat about it.
Recap after. Yep. All right. Stay tuned. Listen in.
This is Alex Gomez. I'm here at the NFC convention with head coach Stacey Nuveman of San Diego State. UCLA graduate back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
One of the, I will say, this is very full circle for me. I grew up in Pasadena.
Okay.
I went to your games. You were I was a catcher all the way through.
Okay.
So it was like, I remember watching you come out with those big old ice packs on your knees.
Oh my gosh, Tom Newman is going to love hearing that. Because that was his claim to fame. I'm the reason you don't have knee problems because we were ice on your knees right after the games.
Yeah, so being able to talk to you today is just like it's a huge full circle moment for me. So we really appreciate you taking the time. But lots going on for you, especially as of late. With the AUSL announcement, what are you most excited about?
I've been a proponent for women's, professional softball. I mean, I played in it myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then since my retirement, and walking away from the playing side of the game, just really want to see it succeed. And, we've seen it come and go multiple times over the years. In fact, even before I was, post-college. So I feel really excited because it feels to me like this is the first time that we, and I say we as a sport, have had the right foundation for a pro league, the right backing, the right support, the right, financial backbone, if you will.
Yeah.
And, I think the fact of what AU has done up to this point with a really unique scoring system and, and also being willing to pivot and kind of go more traditional.
Yeah.
I just feel like, having everybody under one roof, all pulling, rowing the boat in the same direction, I think is just
goal.
what the sport needed. Before it was just too much, individual ownership. I'm going to take care of my team, but this team isn't taken care of the same way. And so the athlete experience is vastly different.
Right.
And mostly bad, frankly. So I just feel like, for me, it's a real honor to be around the best athletes in the world, to be around amazing softball minds. I mean, the 8 of us that are the GMs and the head coaches so far, who's been kind of announced with some players as well. But I'm just like, wow, this is like the who's who in our game, and a lot of history, but also a lot of like up and coming and coaches that are fresh and have great ideas and are very tech savvy and data and analytics driven, which I think is where the game is going.
Yeah.
The college game is definitely going in that direction. The pro game needs to catch up, quite frankly. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
And, and I love this game, and I want to see there be an opportunity for our game's best to be able to literally go make a living and not have to do it with all these other things as it has been forever, that you can make a little bit of money, but you've got to also have a coaching job, or you've got to have a side gig, or you've got to go do lessons and travel around in new clinics and camps and whatnot.
Yep, exactly.
It would be the dream to allow players to just be athletes and train full time. And so I feel like that, that's not here right now, but I feel like the salaries are better than they've ever been, and they're just going to keep getting better as this league kind of roots in, and the following, the fans. Obviously, we need fans and the fan base to kind of come and support and show up. But I'm excited. I'm really honored and excited to be a part of it.
Yeah, and I think it's such a testament too to what the amount of coverage that has changed over the years, right? Like back even when I was playing, it was like maybe you got one game a season on ESPN Plus, right?
Yep.
Like not like a main. And now you go through, you can't not find softball playing on the weekends. So as far as like a lot of the changes, obviously professionally, what about collegiately with the conference shifts and, a lot of, changes with now, obviously Pac-12 is a little bit.
It's a little different than it used to be. Yeah.
How are you guys feeling about this shift in territory, if you will?
Yeah. I mean, literally the ground is moving under our feet as we speak. I think what college athletics, college softball, San Diego State softball, you know, kind of big to small. What it's going to look like in 5-10 years, it's hard to know. I think with, you know, you didn't even mention NIL and you know, revenue sharing and scholarship additions that are potentially on the horizon and all these things. I just think it's the game is changing. You know, the transfer portal being what it is. You know, we're a program that's a big part of our approach to recruiting is, you know, finding players that want a different environment, that are ready to come maybe back home. Not always, you know, sometimes we pull them from distances, but a lot of times it's, you know, California players that are like, okay, I need to get back closer to home. You know, that's been a really big success story for us in the recruiting space. But the NIL piece is tough. I mean, we have a hard time competing in that space. So, you know, I'll share that, you know, I had a kind of inspiration probably a little over a year ago. Rachel Lawson, Kentucky. And they were playing in our tournament at San Diego State, and we were just chatting before the game. And she's like, you know, Nuvey, you got something really cool going here. You know, you got, you know, you're in San Diego. You know, it's February and it's beautiful, and everyone's wearing shorts and like, you know. And she goes, you know, I've always said there's two ways you can be successful. You can be the best, and you can have all the things. You can have the facilities and the resources and all the things, or you can be different. And that just like hit me to my core because at San Diego State, we don't have everything. We're not going to have the best. And I say that humbly and honestly and just being real. Like we're never going to have the best facility. We're never going to have 27 coaches and staff members in our dugout. Like we're not going to have all that. But we can be different. And we can have an amazing culture. We can have an amazing environment that's going to give our athletes a place to thrive and just feel valued and feel challenged, but also have fun. And so like that is literally my North Star. That's like when I think about my program, and we're going to get through all the challenges. And are we going to be affected by what we don't have? We always are going to, that's always going to be the case. We're never going to have all the things. We're not going to get 25 scholarships. I know this. Can we get more than we have now? Yeah, I think we can do better, but we're not going to have all the things that the big dogs have. But we can have an amazing culture. We can be different. And I think that does resonate with a lot of athletes. I think that feeling that they get when they come around our program and when they see us compete and they're in our locker room, they see the way our athletes interact with themselves, each other, and then also with the coaches. They're like, wow, that's pretty awesome. Like, I think I want to be a part of that. And so I think, you know, we're going to weather the storm. Where it all is going to lead us, I don't know. You know, there's certainly parts of it I don't love. You know, I think the integrity and the loyalty piece is certainly being lost and at least a minimum challenged in the sport right now. But it is what it is, right? Like you either adapt or die, right? So
figure it out.
Figure it out or you don't, and you get left behind. So we're going to figure it out and just going to keep to that North Star and just keep being us and keep, you know, selling our program and winning championships, and the rest will take care of itself. Yeah,
I totally resonate with that too, because I feel like, you know, I was on the team in 2010, Hawaii's first Women's College World Series.
So the 120 home run year or whatever that was.
That was the one. And it was like, it wasn't about we were the same as everybody. We were so different from everybody else. And, you know, you step on that field and you just want people to connect with, wow, that seems like somebody I could be friends with, or like, that seems like somebody I'd want to play with, or I'd want to coach, or I'd want to, you know, and I feel like that is something it kind of gets lost sometimes when you get all like the flashy NILs and the money and all this stuff. And it's like, sometimes you lose what it is that it's all about what sets you apart. It's not about what makes you the same. Anybody can have a good batting average. Anybody can pitch. It's when you step on that field and something sparks.
Right.
So I totally resonate with that. Obviously you've been in the game for a long time. What do you feel like as different generations, different sort of like big wave changes have happened, what's kept you in it this long?
Well, I say this that is totally true. One of my favorite things about this profession and my job is that it's a time warp in the best way.
Right.
Because everybody I'm around is 18 to 22 years old.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the years are creeping up, right? And I'm like,
don't stop.
Yeah, like probably 10 years ago, I referenced my recruiting process, and I'm like, oh God, like I don't know if I can really keep doing that anymore because it's been 15 years, you know, whatever it's been. So I love that it keeps me young. You know, I love being around young women, just in the most transitional time in their lives, right? Like you're moving away from home. I mean, you moved a long way from home.
Yeah.
You're figuring out how to be an adult, how to be a grown up, how to handle your business, how to handle hard conversations and
do laundry.
Yeah, just like cook a meal, you know, like just, I love that we get to be a part of that. And, you know, we're not dictators by any means. We're partners in the process. And I just love that we get to be a part of that time and then look back. You know, one of my favorite things is you have a freshman that sits down. Like we just finished our fall exit meetings. Right. We do like the end of the fall kind of debrief.
Yeah.
And that image of that young woman who's just like deer in headlights and like isn't talking and is like didn't sleep the night before her exit meeting because she's like, what are they gonna say? Yeah. Just like losing her mind. And then fast forward 2 or 3 years, and then they sit down as like juniors or seniors, and they're just like, this is so awesome. I didn't cry this morning thinking about my exit meeting, you know? And it's just like how that full kind of circle of growth and realizing that, you know what, believe it or not, I'm not your enemy. Yeah. Right? Like I want this to be an awesome experience for you. I want this to be a transformational experience for you. And yeah, it's not going to be always easy, but we're on the same team. And I think it takes them a little time to kind of get to that point where they're like, oh yeah, actually she is my cheerleader and she means it. It's genuine. Yeah. So like, I love that. I love that, the human side, you know, and I love to compete and win. And, you know, I don't run away from that narrative either. I mean, we're here to win softball games and that's certainly a part of my job and also part of our goal and mission. Yeah. But like, how do we do that? I think that's where the fun is, really, is how we get there. Yeah.
Last question, as you see young women, you know, like you said, kind of grow and mature over those 4 years and then kind of transition out of softball, what do you think gets them to stay in softball? And what do you think, like, what is it that changes that idea for them where they decide, you know what, I'm going to keep doing this and I'm going to coach, or versus I'm just going to go out into the world and do something completely different? What gets them to stay?
Yeah, you know, I think some people, I'll be honest, some people I think do it because they don't really know what else they could do, you know? If you're being honest, it's like, well, I'm good. I know softball. Like, I'll keep doing softball. Yeah. But the real lifers, there's a passion of the mentorship. There's a passion of teaching. There's a passion of connecting, of developing, of building relationships, of building athletes, you've got to have that bug because, if you don't have that passion, if you don't have that like deeper level of drive of the profession, then it'll eat you up and spit you out. Yeah. Because, you know, I think a lot of young players don't really recognize like how little of coaching is actually softball.
1,000%.
Right? So until you get in it and you're like, wait, I have to do what in the office, and wait, I have to do what with recruiting, and wait, I have to do what with, you know, paperwork and all that stuff.
Invoices and orders
it's like very ungratifying. I would say unsexy, but yeah, it's very like, ugh. But it's just part of the job. And so I think when you get into it and you get into that part of it, if you don't love, if the heart part isn't there, you'll flame out and you'll move out and you'll find another profession. And maybe you're still in sport, but not in like coaching. But then if you're a lifer and like it's in you, and there's players that come through the program that you like know, like that is a future coach right there. Yeah. Like, we've got a senior on our team right now that she's just like, it's how she's been wired since she's got here as a freshman. Yeah. She has a coach's mind, and she's not, so then she won't love the paperwork any more than I do, but she'll do it because she loved the field stuff, just fills her bucket so full that it'll be worth it. So, I mean, I love, it's funny, this week I had a couple of my former players that are now in coaching, and I introduced them to some of the like heavy hitters in softball. So like Carol Hutchins, so Hutch was here. And so I had the two of them with me, and I was like, Hutch, I got to meet you. I got to introduce you to a couple of my, you know, this is my coaching tree. It's really small. It's really, really, really small. And it's not that, there's a couple more branches than that, but it was funny. We had a good laugh because, you know, Hutch's coaching tree is like
massive.
It's like a, you know, giant oak tree that's been around for 100 years. No offense, Hutch, but, you know, so it's fun to just kind of see that start to grow for me, just, and knowing that I had a little part of that, right, to maybe inspire them. Like they want to do awesome things in the sport and keep going past their playing careers. And
it's such a testament to like their experience with you, because if they feel that connection, if they felt like it was positive, then they're confident in moving forward and saying, oh, I want to do that. Like I want to do that. We were back in Hawaii back in May. That team from 2010 was inducted into the Hall of Fame. And so we were all 16 of us came back, and we haven't seen each other in years, but we sit there and we're like, wait, you're coaching like that. It's cool. It's crazy to think about, you know, like whatever level it is, whether it's, you know, and JUCO and D2, whatever it is, but that impact says so much about you guys as coaches, just that you're almost recruiting again,
right,
in a different way,
Yeah.
right? You're getting them, and that's such a legacy that you guys are creating. So I think that's such a testament to just your swagger, but also like your ability to connect, your ability to stay current with them,
Right.
and meet them where they're at, because that's changed a lot over the years.
Yeah.
The mental side of it and the emphasis, which I think is great. It's a different ball game than what we were used
Oh, I mean, Sue Wanko would be the first one to say,
to. Yeah.
if she coached today the way she coached us in, the late 90s, she's like, I wouldn't have a job for very long.
Yeah.
Just, it's different, right?
Bob
It's
says the same.
Yeah.
He says the same thing. He's like, I just sometimes have to walk away, because I don't know if what is going to come out
it's gonna work.
It's going to be taken the right way. I'm like, yeah, I have a couple phrases of yours in my head that I probably can't repeat now.
Yep.
So
Yep.
I get it. It's the landscape has changed, but I think I see a lot of positives. The AUSL obviously being a huge one for us, leading up to, I guess, 2028 is kind of like the next big
Right.
Oklahoma.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Don't ask that question.
No,
I know it's coming. I know it's coming. I mean,
Dee and I have already talked about it. Everybody knows how we feel about it. We're not gonna. It's politics. We get it. It's just one of those things. Roll with the punches.
Yeah,
Right. We got to kind of like deal with it as it comes.
Again, I think it's unfortunate. It's disappointing for the athletes. For me, whatever. Like I was fortunate to play at a time in the national team program where we got the full experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sad that they don't. At the same time, I'd still rather us have an Olympic softball event than not. So we've kind of seen we've been fat and happy, and then we've been like just
pulling the scraps.
Exactly. And so I'm sad, but also hopefully that can change in the future. I don't not for this particular Olympic event, but in the future, I think it's important that you keep the athletes where the actual, not
Games
halfway
are.
across the country,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
it is what it is.
No. Well, I appreciate you taking time with us. Like I said, our goal is just to keep bringing awareness into, the women in this sport and what we go through, whether it's coaching, through parenthood, through all of those life transitions. So obviously, again, you're a legend. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, how do we rehash one of the greatest to ever do it? Number one,
has so much, like all of it was just so good. I feel like
she was in college forever. Like when I look at the stat line and I'm going through it, she was at UCLA from 1997 to 2002. That's a really long time.
That's normal for like today with like red shirts and gray shirts and COVID and but like that I think it's because you go from 90s to 2000, like that crossover right there just feels like so big.
Yeah, national championship in 1999. She's been at San Diego State for 17 years. And the breakdown, I mean, she was the assistant coach from 2008 through 12, and then got bumped up to the associate head coach when they were able to kind of put that out there.
Right.
2013 through 21, and then has been the head coach of that program since 2022, rightfully so. I mean, she's done wonders with that program.
Yep.
And when I really think about like San Diego State, they were a conference that like you low-key didn't really want to get in the postseason. They're so scrappy, and they were kind of one of those teams that like had constantly been knocking at the door of like doing some damage, and they got the right pieces together. I vividly, I don't know about you, but I remember when they picked up like the Maggie Ballant, who had played at Oregon, and they got that kind of pickup. And I really looked at the run that they had in 2023. Like, to me, that's the standout. And one of the highlights that I looked at from that 2023 season was San Diego State, because not only was it them winning that UCLA regional and UCLA going down and losing to Grand Canyon. Do you remember that? Like how big a deal that was?
That was huge.
And so for San Diego State to be able to come out of that and then head to their first ever super regionals, the one thing that you have to do is you have to knock at the door, and you have to get to those next phases of the game to learn the emotions and the pressure. And you don't know what you don't know, right? So I think that was such a cool thing to see that happen for San Diego State. And especially when you have someone like coach who's been there for as long as she has. It's just kind of one of those super cool feelings of like, dude, you could not be happier for someone like her that got to go through that.
She just has it's just like, it's so evident in the way that she talks and just the way that she carries herself. She's a true like advocate for the game, for women's softball, and always has been. And one of the things too that we talked about outside of the interview was how she had the 1 year of interim head coach. So she went from associate to interim, then to head coach. Yeah. And she's like, people don't usually get that. And it was such a great learning experience because it was a true handoff, right? In softball and coaching, it's so temporary and it's so contractual, like year to year. And like, there's so many question marks and like unknowns. And so for her to have that, aside from learning from the previous head coach and then, you know, having that time to be associate and kind of grow in that, but then to also have a full year of saying, okay, this is exactly what it's going to be like, but I'm still here to support you. And then now go do it on your own. Yeah. For her to pull super regionals for the first time in program history a year later, like that's insane. And like you said, 17 years in one program is unheard of as a coach.
Yeah. And not too shabby of a living space. San Diego doesn't seem
it's not terrible.
You know, and she talked about Coach Lawson and, you know, Kentucky playing against them and Lawson just making the points of like how beautiful this is, right? And at the end of the day, you know, I think what was super cool was her saying, like, we don't have all of these SEC 30, 40, $50 million facilities, right? But like we do the little things really great and we support these athletes, and you look at the you know, space that we get to compete in. And it is really true because not everyone gets the opportunity to play at those top 10 universities.
Right.
But when you look at a program like San Diego State and what it has to offer, not only for obviously the schooling and how beautiful it is to be there and to compete there, you know, they did the Athletes Unlimited there in San Diego, and I got to call some games. And I just remember like how cool it was and how beautiful the setting was. And I'm like, dude, I could be outside like all year long. It's kind of a big deal. And then you have those coaches, like you have the right people in the mix to help you get better and compete. And obviously now the game has changed dramatically. Like you had Big Mac on that team last year, who was one of the best players. I had San Diego State at the regional last year, and they always have to go to UCLA, and you know, I get to talk and sit down with the athletes, and you know, Big Mac was kind of one of my like favorites, and she ended up transferring and going to Texas A&M this year. But like that's just kind of where the world is when it comes to collegiate athletics, right? Like San Diego State gave her this opportunity, and then she chose to go and compete in the SEC after that. But like the foundation was so able to be set by the people that were in her corner that helped her get to where she needed to be.
Yeah. I think it's there maybe San Diego State's never going to be like that school when they recruit, but she like coach knows that, like she knows what their strengths are. She knows what they're offering their athletes. And that to me is so much more important because as a coach, when you're sitting there one-on-one with an athlete who you want to come compete for you, you need to be able to say, no, I can't offer that, but this is what I can offer you. And that's why it's going to be the best place for you, right? Yeah. It's figuring out why that sets her apart in this crazy world. They're gritty. Like they're gritty as hell. Every year there's somebody that claws back and like comes from out of nowhere. And all of a sudden it's like, hey, they're contenders. Like they're up there, like competing with these bigger schools. And, you know, like she said, they don't have the $30-40 million alumni stadiums, but it's still such a cool experience there. Like I remember when we went there and when I was coaching at Davis, and like their athletic complex itself is just, it's crazy cool. You play right next to baseball. Like I love athletic complexes that have it set up like that, because you want those people that are going to watch baseball to watch softball. Like it just makes it easy for them to kind of really be ingrained in everything that's going on, rather than having to like pick and choose, like, well, baseball's playing over here and softball's playing over here, so I have to pick, right? When you have it so it's all situated together, and then the athletes are always there together with like the different like training rooms and academic rooms and stuff like that. I think it's such a cool setup.
Yeah, I played there a couple times throughout my career at UW. I know Coach Tar always loved that tournament, right? Like the weather is always great. It's a pretty smooth and easy flight from Seattle, and the competition was always awesome. And then, you know, you get to kind of be around someone like Stacey Nuveman, who has a lot of cool stuff going on. Like when I think of this woman and how much she knows about the game, right? I mean, we have a 3-time medalist, 2-time gold medal, and then silver back in 2008. Like I remember competing against her at that 2008 Olympics because first and foremost, I will say she got in the best shape of her life for that 2008 Olympic Games. And Stacey Nuveman, I mean, I wish I could have got the opportunity to throw to someone like that. Like she was just rock behind the dish. Like I think there was something so special about her connection that she was able to have with her pitchers. But on top of that, the fear factor that someone like that has that's in the lineup, right? When you have someone like her and Crystal Bustos back in 2008, like it was dangerous. And I mean, obviously they came second and it was heartbreaking for them, but pretty cool for the softball world to see Japan be able to do what they did and kind of start that kind of upward trajectory of Japan being the powerhouse that they are. You know, but it's like thinking about her getting the opportunities to play in 2000 and go to Sydney and then go to Athens, and the run that U.S. Olympic team had with Coach Candrea and how dominant that team was in 2004. And then finishing up getting, you know, to play in 2008. And then that was her first year with San Diego State, right? So the experience is invaluable. Like that is just so precious to be able to have and hold and pass on. And the times may be different in the game, right? Than it was back when even you and I played and back when Stacey Nuveman played, but the grind stays the same. Your commitment to wanting to be elite is a really big deal, right? Like you put in that time. So for her to be able to, which I know she does, evolve with the athlete, because you have to with the way that the game has changed and these athletes are coming in. But anyone that gets the opportunity, I think, to be around her, talk to her and be coached by her is in such a good position for that next phase of life. And I know she touched on that in the interview. Like she loves getting these, you know, freshman players in that are terrified before those coaches meetings. And then she gets to see them kind of evolve into these women and take the world head on because of the life lessons they've learned being in a program like that. So she's just always given to this game. This game has known Stacey Nuveman since I first started understanding what Team USA was. You know, she was a part of it. So I've always been a Stacey Nuveman fan for sure.
Well, and now we get to see her in such a different context with AUSL, which is so exciting because when you talk about all those things that she brought to the table and what she brings as a coach, as she did as a player, and now we get to see it in such a different, with such a like, everybody that we've talked to about AUSL is just so excited about the direction that it's headed and the way that it's being handled and managed, and how everybody's on the same page and everybody has the same goals. So to know that she's a part of that, like, watch out, because I mean, when this woman sets her mind to something, like, we know she's not going to half-ass it. Like, this is going to be monumental for professional softball. So I just think it's so exciting that, you know, she's going to be a part of it, and I'm just excited.
And, you know, the AUSL is a little bit different than the Athletes Unlimited for like a format direction that they had been going in as far as like the point system. And I think this was something that the game kind of needed, right? They wanted to have this longer season. So you're obviously still going to have that point system season when they will. I don't know the exact dates, obviously, but to give these women more opportunities to play longer and make more money, make your money with the AUSL, which is going to kind of, you know, turn the pages back to the old school ways of playing, because AU was so new. It was so fantasy-like. It's drafting, it's points, there's so many different things that are going on. So the buzz that's around this and the media attention and the attention to detail that they do on social media is so awesome. Like Savannah Collins is one of my favorites. She's been with AU for so long. She does the sideline reporting, all of the interviews, does the draft stuff. Like she's always giving you the goods. And, you know, I just love how much they're putting out there, right? Like they've already named the PEC, the Player Executive Committee for the AUSL. And those are the women that get to kind of help make the decisions, right? Obviously, with the AUSL, you're having the general managers and you're having the head coaches. And that's the biggest difference besides going back to playing softball with no point system. That's what was not there in AU. Right. They did not have coaches. These athletes were the ones that get to make the decisions. And I kind of like weirdly loved that about it because you get to be your own boss and you get to make the decisions based on how well you play. And if I'm high up in the leaderboard, then I get to make the decisions who plays and who doesn't. There's a lot of power with that.
Yeah.
And now you're going to see the player executive committee. It's Aubrey Leach, Megan Framo, Sierra Romero, Morgan Zirkle, who's been there for a long time, which is awesome. She's the head coach of Marshall. And there's Charlize Palacios, who came off of UCLA last year and had a hell of a rookie campaign in Athletes Unlimited. So you're going to see those women get to help kind of navigate the process of how things go down. But as far as like a small breakdown of this, like it's going to be that 4-team league, and you have the Bolts. So the GM is Kat Osterman. You have Kelly Kretschmann. Both those two are really good friends, played together with Team USA. So, you know, the chemistry and connection of the GM and the head coach, I think, is super key. As well, adding that in. And then you look at like the Blaze, you have Dana Sorensen and Alyssa Goler, who's going to be in the mix. You have the Bandits, JDH, Stacey Nuveman. You have Lisa Fernandez, Howard Dobson with the Talons. Like, so you're getting a lot of these vintage coaches in the mix. Like I would be a little scared to play with Fernandez and maybe Howard Dobson.
I like the word vintage. I think they'll appreciate that too. That it was because it's such a unique era that they each come from, and like it was so pivotal in the world of softball. Like, so to have those be like the pillars of these 4 teams, I think is just really setting it up for success.
Yeah, you're going back to the roots of where potentially a lot of these athletes that are playing now watched.
Right.
So watching Kat, watching Kelly compete in Olympic Games, watching Dana Sorensen at Stanford, one of the GOATs. You know, Alyssa Goler was my time, and so for sure she's watched. And one of the probably the toughest hitters, top 10 toughest hitters that I've ever faced at Georgia. And then you have JDH, obviously vintage, up there with Nuvey back in that kind of 90s era of when they played. And, you know, the GOAT of all GOATs, like Lisa Fernandez was one of the main, you know, first athletes that I saw compete. And I think I've told you this at the Canada Cup up in White Rock, British Columbia, where I didn't even know college softball was the potential opportunity for me to play. And I'm like, holy shit. Do you see the way that woman is competing and playing and just rocking it? There was something really cool about that kind of just like inflated this alter ego in me to be like, yo, I think that's how I want to be. Right. Like, it gives you this belief that it's okay to act like that. She was so stone cold.
Well, and look like that too. I feel like that's such an important piece of it, is like just rock solid, like beast of a pitcher coming at you and like just whipping. I mean, like with Fernandez on the mound and then Nuveman behind the plate, it's like, I don't want to step in that batter's box. Like on any day of the week, because it's just that swagger. It's so powerful.
It's like Michael Jordan-esque, you know, like you think of.
That's like our comparison. I think that's a good one.
Yeah. I am like so excited to see how this has all gone down. Like I said, they've named a couple players. We don't know where people are going. They're going to have the allocation draft in Nashville, January 29th. And they post a lot on their. And then we'll know which teams, how everything's going to be broken down. But for those that want to know the scoop, the ones that have for sure already signed to the AUSL, Deja Mulipola, who was a winner of Athletes Unlimited a couple of years ago, Carly Hoover, who's probably one of my favorite additions, because I have not got the chance to call a game that she's pitched in. I've seen her compete with USA, but she's been in Japan for the last little bit. And so I think putting her in this league is only going to help sharpen her game to potentially make a run at being a part of that 2028 Olympic roster. Like, we have to remember that all of these athletes are getting the opportunity to continue to play longer, to sharpen the tools in the toolbox, to be able to go to an Olympic tryout to try to make a 15-man roster. That's a lot for Heather Tarr to, but it's pretty cool that they're getting these opportunities to do it. So,
and they come back from playing internationally, and that's a different player than what we ever saw, because playing it overseas, even if it's not Japan, even if it's Italy, Europe, like, overseas, like, that's just such a different experience that you then bring back, and you're like a totally different player. So now she's adding that into their roster too.
And not to harp on this, but I kind of feel like this is a big point. Listen, if you're an elite pitcher, and I'm going to say pitcher, and you're over there playing in Japan, they know everything about you. Yeah. Japan is the team to beat, right?
Yeah.
No one knows if Yukiko Ueno is going to be a coach or a coach or a player in the 2028 Olympics. I'm not going to put it past the fact that she maybe could. But I mean, she's going to be probably like mid-40s. So I don't know. I bet she still will. I know she'll be a part of it. They have Goto. But what I'm saying is, like, when I think about the 2020 Olympics, 2021 that we competed in, the pitcher that I felt like could have hit herself more but didn't was someone like Monica Abbott. She competed and played in Japan more than any other. I want to say she's up there with Michelle Smith. As long as she's gotten the opportunity to play, the money is right. Let me just put that out there right now. The money is right.
Yes.
But Japan ain't stupid. They know what they're doing. And when they're getting the opportunity to face someone that is top 3 pitchers in the world day in and day out, and video and data and knowing, damn well they were going into that 2021 Olympics. We hope that Monica Abbott's in the circle just because they have the confidence, right? So that's what I'm saying. If you're playing over in Japan and you're a pitcher, just know that Japan has this whole thing on you and knowing you.
They got a large file with all your stuff in there. Yeah. They don't take that. They take it so seriously. The data, the numbers, the everything. They analyze it all to like a depth that we can't even fathom yet in the US. I feel like it's insane.
Yeah. Their attention to detail is like nothing I've ever seen. That's why they win. Reps on reps on reps on reps. There's just nothing like it. So Morgan Zirkle, she's been with Athletes Unlimited since it started. She's surpassed, I want to say, I can't remember. It doesn't sound good that I just said that out loud, but she hit a certain number with Athletes Unlimited, her and Haley McClinney both, and it was kind of epic. Kayla Kowalik from Kentucky, Jesse Warren, Aaron Koffel, another Kentucky, Anissa Urtez, Jordan Roberts, Peyton Gottschall, Tennessee. You have Aubrey Leach, Tennessee as well. Mariah Masson from Oregon State. Ali Aguilar, Husky, Go Dogs. Had to throw that in the mix. Sydney McKinney, Alicia Ocasio, Montana Fouts, which was a really cool sign, I think, to be able to, number one, her health is good, and with her knee, nobody kind of knew where she was maybe at with that. So her coming back, Delaney Wiz, Megan Wiggins, Tori Vidalis, Megan Framo, and Sierra Romero. So right now, those are the players that they have in the pool that they're going to start to divvy up.
Right.
But it's going to be, I'm really interested to see how this goes down. I'm like wicked excited about it because I've been a part of the Athletes Unlimited in a very small scale, just the media part, just calling games. Like, I don't know the in and outs that the athletes do in the day-to-day grind, but I know that I respect the hell out of all these athletes and the commitment that they've made to be a part of this. So I'm excited to see where this is headed. I know it's in the right hands. I know they have the right people that are involved. So it only gives hope to the little eyes that are watching that potentially want to do this for longer than just playing in college. And Nuveman-Deniz makes the good point. Like, we want to give these athletes the opportunity to be able to play, and that be the only thing they worry about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of these athletes don't know that. The ones that play in Japan and then the ones that do this do, because it's your whole year. But a lot of these athletes have to compete, you know, whether they're coaches or head coaches or giving lessons or so many different things to be able to do this game that they love in the summertime. So I could not be more excited for, you know, the coaches and GMs that they have involved. Jenny Dalton-Hill and Stacey Nuveman-Deniz will be involved with the Bandits, which is going to be super cool. So just a lot of good stuff that's going to be happening here pretty quick.
Yeah, I think it was good timing too, like being able to catch her at NFCA and now being able to kind of release this episode ahead of the draft, or the first part of the draft, coming up at the end of this month, which is going to be super exciting. I just think it's all headed in such a good direction. And I think that especially like for people like us who've seen softball kind of go through ebbs and flows and ups and downs and all arounds in the last 4 or 5 years, I think this is the first time I feel like everybody who talks about it is all talking in the right direction and is all very excited about it. So thanks for listening in. We appreciate it. That was Coach Nuvey. Kudos. I said this on the thing, like, was a huge full circle for me. Like, she was one of my idols growing up. So it was so cool to get to sit down and talk to her. And we're rooting for you.
Yep.